In 1862, Secretary Stanton faced a critical problem: moving troops across a divided nation. Confederate forces controlled key rail junctions, strangling Union supply lines. Military maps showed Union routes in blue, Confederate territories in red. Traditional wagon-based logistics proved inadequate for modern warfare's massive demands. President Lincoln authorized the United States Military Railroad, a revolutionary concept that would transform warfare logistics and establish American military transportation for generations. Colonel McCallum recruited America's top railroad talent, including Herman Haupt, a brilliant engineer who would revolutionize military railroad construction under battlefield conditions. Haupt's engineering brilliance combined with McCallum's management skills formed a powerful team. Together, they secured vital rail lines essential for Union victory. The team included specialists in construction, transportation, and maintenance. Freed slaves and women joined this operation, creating unprecedented workforce diversity. The military railroad's genius emerged in battle zones where Confederates routinely destroyed bridges. Haupt's teams rebuilt vital infrastructure under constant enemy threat. Haupt's trestle bridge design enabled rapid construction using local materials. His engineering emphasized speed over permanence. Bridges needed only to last for immediate needs. Union locomotives crossing bridges built in under 24 hours symbolized Northern industrial might. These engineering feats astonished even skeptical military commanders. Washington's depot became logistics headquarters, handling unprecedented war material volumes. McCallum's systems managed this complex operation with revolutionary efficiency. Standardized loading procedures and specialized equipment cut loading times in half. These innovations dramatically increased supply flow to frontline troops. McCallum's telegraph-based dispatching created the first time-based scheduling in American transportation. These techniques later became railroad industry standards nationwide. During Gettysburg, the military railroad established forward bases near battlefields. Mobile headquarters coordinated troop movements with unprecedented battlefield responsiveness. Railroad workers repaired tracks under enemy fire, with Confederate cavalry targeting these supply lines. These civilians risked their lives alongside soldiers. Delivering ammunition to depleted Union forces altered battle outcomes. General Meade later admitted that without this supply system, holding Gettysburg would have failed. Massive workshops drove innovation as damaged locomotives were repaired for military service. Captured Confederate engines were converted to Union gauge to expand the fleet. War's human cost drove innovation as engineers developed hospital cars with advanced suspension systems to reduce trauma during wounded soldier transport. Lincoln personally visited these workshops, recognizing their strategic importance. His support reflected his understanding that industrial capacity would decide this new warfare. As war moved west, railroad leaders joined Generals Sherman and Thomas to plan supply lines into Georgia. These networks would enable Sherman's famous March to the Sea. Massive bridges across Tennessee rivers showcased military engineering skill. These wooden trestles, spanning hundreds of feet, were built with remarkable speed. As Sherman advanced, construction teams followed, converting Confederate tracks to Union gauge. This forward logistics capability became a model for future military campaigns. Hospital trains became the military railroad's most humanitarian contribution. These mobile medical facilities transported wounded soldiers directly to major medical centers. Inside specialized cars, nurses provided continuous care during transport. Innovative stretcher systems reduced journey trauma for critically wounded soldiers. These trains saved thousands by reducing evacuation time from days to hours. The system pioneered principles of military medical evacuation, still used in modern warfare. By 1865, hundreds of trains moved simultaneously, bringing supplies forward and evacuating wounded rearward through sophisticated scheduling systems perfected over 4 years. Frontline rail terminals transferred ammunition, food, and equipment directly to fighting units with efficiency unimaginable at the war's beginning. When Lee's surrender news reached railroad workers, celebrations erupted system-wide. Locomotive whistles sounded in victory as the network that won the war celebrated peace. During demobilization, McCallum documented the railroad's achievements. In 4 years, it transported 4 million tons of supplies and hundreds of thousands of troops. President Johnson presented commendations to railroad leaders for innovations in construction, logistics, and medical evacuation that revolutionized modern warfare. Though disbanded, veterans carried expertise into America's post-war railroad expansion. Their designs and systems became industry standards, helping reunify the divided nation. By 1883, America's rail network had tripled to over 100,000 miles, driven by military railroad veterans now leading the industry. Their experience transformed American transportation. At Chicago's exposition, aging Hermann Haupt shared wartime engineering knowledge with students. His emergency techniques had become standard engineering curriculum nationwide. The exhibition demonstrated how military necessity accelerated innovation. Theodore Roosevelt studied these displays, forming ideas that would shape his future presidency. When San Francisco's earthquake struck, emergency responses used military railroad methods. Former officers coordinated disaster relief using systems developed during war. Relief supplies flowed through emergency railheads using wartime distribution systems. Veterans supervised operations, transferring critical knowledge during crisis. As automobiles emerged, military planners recognized railroads' importance for mass transportation. Early integration plans drew directly from military railroad experience. By 1915, military planners studied German railways with concern. Maps revealed alarming gaps between European military rail capabilities and America's fragmented commercial system. Wilson met with railroad executives to discuss mobilization needs. Lincoln's portrait symbolized the precedent for federal control during national emergency. Voluntary preparedness exercises tested mobilization capabilities at major rail yards. These drills revealed coordination problems between competing railroads, requiring government intervention. When America entered World War I, Wilson established the Railroad War Board. Railroad executives faced the reality that competition must yield to national security. A national operations center emerged with status boards tracking America's entire rail network. Civil War management systems were implemented on a nationwide scale. By December 1917, Wilson nationalized America's railroads with complete government control, an action more sweeping than even Lincoln's wartime measures. Railroad terminals became gateways to war as millions of recruits boarded troop trains. This mobilization dwarfed Civil War movements with unprecedented scale. Specialized trains transported military equipment to training camps. Flat cars carried artillery, box cars moved vehicles, and modified cars transported thousands of horses. Round-the-clock operations processed continuous arrivals of men and materials. Moving 4 million soldiers from hometown to battlefield became America's largest transportation achievement. America's industrial heartland transformed with rail systems connecting factories directly to military networks. This integration enabled continuous production for the war effort. New systems transferred munitions from production lines to specialized rail cars. Every shipment was tracked from factory to battlefield with unprecedented precision. Women joined industrial and railroad operations in unprecedented numbers as production milestones were celebrated. These changes permanently transformed American labor patterns. New York Harbor became America's military gateway overseas. Rail and ship movements transferred millions of tons of supplies to waiting transport vessels. Specialized military equipment required expert handling during transfer. Railway artillery pieces, weighing many tons, demanded precise rigging during ship loading. Troop trains connected directly to transport ships in seamless movement from heartland to European battlefield. This integration of rail and maritime transport proved essential. An extensive domestic training network supported America's military. Regional control centers coordinated hundreds of daily train movements between specialized facilities. Specialized training prepared railway troops for European conditions. Engineers practiced bridge construction, while operators trained on European-style equipment. Live fire exercises integrated railroad support with combat operations. These drills assessed both fighting units and logistics before actual deployment to combat zones. America's railroad expertise became a military asset as specialized units prepared for overseas deployment. Experienced workers were recruited to rebuild French railways. Custom equipment for European operations loaded aboard transport vessels. This included rail-laying machinery, prefabricated tracks, and disassembled locomotives. Departing soldiers wore combination railroad and military uniforms, reflecting their dual identity. Their mission, rebuilding infrastructure under fire, evolved directly from Civil War experience. American railway troops found systematic destruction of French infrastructure. German forces had twisted rails, demolished switches, and destroyed water towers during withdrawal. Using Civil War techniques, soldiers implemented rapid reconstruction methods. Prefabricated components and standardized procedures accelerated restoration of vital transportation lines. The first supply trains on reconstructed tracks marked crucial victory in the logistics war. These restored railways became lifelines for military operations and civilians alike. Railroad capability extended directly to front lines during American offensives. Narrow-gauge tracks brought ammunition forward, while returning with wounded soldiers. Railroad troops worked under enemy fire to maintain supply lines. Emergency teams laid temporary rails directly on ground. Techniques descended from Civil War practices. Night operations delivered supplies to combat units while avoiding enemy observation. These railroad capabilities provided American forces with decisive logistical advantages during final offensives. When armistice news reached railway junctions on November 11th, workers showed mixed emotions. Jubilation, disbelief, and exhaustion combined as peace became reality. Military priorities shifted from combat to reconstruction and withdrawal. Transportation officers calculated requirements for American demobilization while transitioning toward civilian control. Ceremonial last runs of military trains, decorated with Allied flags, marked the conclusion of wartime operations. These journeys completed a crucial military mission. American railway troops in occupied Germany supervised former enemy transportation systems. Their mission shifted from combat support to civilian relief operations. Allied teams assessed German railroad equipment for reparations. Some locomotives were marked for transfer to France as replacement for destroyed equipment. As occupation wound down, railway units prepared for return home. Formal ceremonies transferred operations to Allied control or approved German authorities. Transport ships returning railway troops received heroes' welcomes. Efficient arrangements allowed soldiers to move directly from ship to trains bound for home. Special trains moved through towns across America, greeted by local welcoming committees. The railroad system that carried troops to war now brought them home. In December 1919, Wilson ended government control of American railroads. The Railroad Administration returned operations to private hands after 26 months of federal management. A memorial dedicated to railroad troops united veterans from both wars. This ceremony recognized the continuous tradition of American military railroad service across generations. Military and railroad leaders analyzed wartime lessons at the War College. These discussions shaped future transportation doctrine and established public-private cooperation frameworks. From Lincoln's improvised system to today's global networks, military railroad traditions represent American innovation in national challenges, leaving a lasting transportation legacy.